everyone, this is Danielle, also known as Gently Smiling Jaws, and welcome to my Flosstube for July 2025. We'll see how things go. When I am filming this, I opened the window here for some natural light, but it's sort of a little later than I had planned to get started filming on this, and we've got some kind of harsh light coming in over here, so we'll try and work around that. Let's see where to start off. So I'll start off with the tea that I am drinking this time. This is, it's from Crimson Lotus Tea. It's their Space Girls. It's a 2023 Shungware. It's a small little cake. And with the Space Girls, they generally press a number of cakes and they do different wrappers on them, although the tea is the same. This is the Ursula. Let's get that in here. It's the Ursula wrapper, and the artist on these is Stasia Burrington. And so I brewed up the tea in the teaware that I normally use, but I put it in a mug here, and this is a brand new mug that I picked up at the Squim Lavender Festival. Been quite a while since I've been over to Squim, and actually the first time I had gone to the Lavender Festival, so I'll put some photos from that in at the end. And this, I'm blanking on the name of the artist that I picked up this mug from, but I will make note of it in the video. I know it says it on the bottom of the mug, but it's not going to be easy for me to check it when it's full of hot tea. So let me take a sip of that. And it's warm here. Got the fan going. There's going to be fan noise. I'm hopefully not blocking my mic like I was last time, so hopefully, although there will be some fan noise, hopefully the audio will be better than in my last video. Okay, I suppose I will start off as usual that down in the description box I will have information about Connecting Humanity and how you can donate eSIMs to folks who are in Gaza and are in need of eSIMs for communication. Okay, so since my last Flosstube, I really didn't do that much stitching. However, I have completed something, so although I feel like I didn't, on one hand, I feel like I didn't do a ton, and I know I've said that in the last few of these that I've done, is I feel like I'm not stitching a ton, but at least I feel like I made progress this month. And I'm actually going to start with my finish because I'm happy I have a finish. And I have not gotten this ironed yet, but I did actually clip it here too. Or let's see if I can hold this up so that you can see, hopefully. That's coming in. This is Ink Circles, Reflections of Paris. And I had said in a recent video that I was hoping to have this complete within the year. I started this on, I believe it was July 29th of 2024, and I finished it before that. Sure, so it was just a little shy of its 1-year birthday. And this is on, fabric is a 40 count, I think it's 18th Century Blackbird by R&R Reproductions. And sorry, I'm not used to sitting here in relation to the camera, so figuring out the best way to hold this up. And the flosses are from Mo's Sail Silks. I think we have royal blue, off-white, and ruby. And I decided that I wanted to, when I did this, I thought, well, what color should I do it in? And I decided I would do the colors of the French flag. So that's what I did. And I think This was like maybe a little under 7,000 stitches total, and I know if I had, you know, put more, I could have focused on it more earlier on and had it done in much less time than I ultimately did, but it's done now and I am happy. Let's see. So now we need to work on selecting a frame and getting it framed. I still think I'm going to be giving this one away as a gift, and so trying to make choices on how to frame it. So that'll be down the road, but it is on my list to get done. So I was very pleased with this. I'm happy with how it looks, and would like to see it fully finished. So this is an accomplishment here. After I finished this, I was sort of thinking, boy, now I finished something, I kind of want to start something new, but I think I'm not there yet. I think there's still, I'd like to get more stuff wrapped up, or make progress in other things before starting in on something new, because I'm at a point now where and I've said it before, that I'm now getting to the point where I feel like I have a lot of whips, and I don't want it to get too, you know, much more out of hand than where it is now. Because for a while I was perfectly fine with the number that I was at, and now it's starting to feel like a lot for me. So that's where we are. So yes, I am happy. I did have a lot of fun working on this, and I like how it looks with the colors of the French flag. I think it does sort of, having the different colors, it does break up the symmetry a bit as far as having the mandala shape and everything, you know, reflected. So there's some pluses and minuses for the color choice here, but overall I am very happy with how it turned out. So yay, I don't get to finish all that often, so very happy about this. The only other thing that I worked on since my last Flosstube was to continue to make progress on Put a Bird on It. And let's see if I can, so my board is now not going to be big enough for where this is at. But here we go. This is where we're at. Let's see about holding it. Maybe that's better. So I think I am caught up. I think I'm caught up stitch-wise with where I need to be at this point in the year. At the end of last month, I was like, I want to work on this more. I pushed ahead, did more work, and then got caught up with where I needed to be for July. So I actually haven't touched this at all in July, but maybe at the end of this month I will start working on my portion for August. And yeah, I guess I know that up here at the top I have gone over as far over as the just stitching goes, so I still have, I know there's more down at the bottom, and then of course, you know, along here, but I am making progress. And I did not make it to the July Zoom meeting. It was a number of things. It fell on the 4th of July, and so I was distracted, wasn't really thinking about this. And then also I decided for the first time in a long time to play a video game. I had seen that it was like the Steam summer sale, and I'm like, I don't need to spend money on games. I have a lot of games in my Steam library that I haven't played, so let me pick something and play it. And so when I was young and growing up, and we were lucky enough to have the, you know, Nintendo consoles, and my brother and I would play, and you know, we'd fight over getting to use it and all that, and had a good time. However, once it hit the Super Mario 64, once that game came out, and it was the first game where you were it was more of a 3D environment that you were walking around in, that became the start of my issues with whether you want to call it motion sickness, or I suppose in this case it's technically simulator sickness. From that point on, so many games just induce a wave of nausea when I am playing them. And so on the 4th of July, when I decided to sit down and play that game, where it was just a puzzle game where you're just walking around in an environment. It's nothing crazy. I played it a little too long. I pushed myself a little too hard, which it was probably like less than an hour that I played it, and I was curled up on the floor for a while waiting for the nausea to leave. And so then that sort of went along with me forgetting to log on for this, so unfortunately I missed the Zoom for July. But yeah, for me, I guess part of it is I don't play games enough to stay like desensitized to that feeling. I mean, there have been times in the past where there have been a few games in the last, I don't know, 5-10 years, a handful of games where I have been invested enough to, slowly play them enough that the nausea seems to subside, and I can put a number of hours into them, and I'm okay. But if I don't play them for a long time, then that happens, and it's an awful feeling. And the things that I need to try again is Dramamine. Years ago, I tried it and it didn't work, but it has been long enough that I think maybe I should give that a try again. And then also, I know there's those really weird glasses with the liquid in them that's supposed to give you like a horizon line or something, and I have not tried those yet, so maybe at some point down the road I will do that. But I eventually managed to finish the little indie game that I was playing, and there's another puzzle game that's more, it's not walking around, it's more you have the little scene and you're more kind of spinning the thing around and trying to solve puzzles, and I have been slowly working on that, like maybe once a day or every other day, going in and doing a tiny little bit. And I don't know, part of me, I like playing games, but I also don't like how much of a time sink that they can become. I mean, the last game I really played was quite a few years back. It was the puzzle game The Witness, which I don't remember when it came out. I didn't play it until it had been out for a while, and that game I got into enough that, looking at my Steam library, I know I have put over 100 hours into that game, which for me is a ton. But I also remember times playing that game where, again, playing a game, wave of nausea, have to set it aside and come back to it later, and it's awful. And yeah, so now I've gotten way off track, and we're not talking about stitching anymore. But here we are. So I didn't write down how much I have left to do of this, but I think I'm certainly on track to be done by the end of the year. So maybe I'll pick this up again before the month is out. So I have more fiber related stuff that's not stitching. did put in, there we go, I put in a bit more work on my second sock. Obviously I've still got a ways to go here. Here's my first sock. Here's the second sock, which continues to be looking much nicer overall, and is not as slouchy as the first sock. But I still have a ways to go. This is just in the other part of the leg. I have not started in on the heel yet or the rest, and it's been long enough since I did that first one. I'm going to have to really go over the instructions again and make sure that I am doing it right, but yes. So still a ways to go, but I made a little more progress on that. So that was my one knitting thing that I worked on. But I also, wonder of wonders, pulled out my crochet blanket I'm working on. I didn't do all that many rows, but I did a few rows. I was almost, with the two colors I'm using, I was almost at the end of the balls of yarn that I was working on, and I got far enough that I am now on 2 new balls of yarn. And these are Malabrigo 1. What is this? This one I think is Iris Arco, and I can't remember the name of this color. I know if you look in past videos I will have it there, but this is where I am at. So it's not all that tall as far as it's. I don't think I ever measured exactly how wide this was, so obviously I'm not very far, and plus with this pattern that I'm using, and I'll link to the video that talks about the pattern in the description, but I think it's like what is it, come on, you're gonna focus, a like faux bobble pattern. And you know, I have done more crochet than knitting, and I know that crochet eats up a lot more yarn than knitting does, but with a pattern like this, it really eats up the yarn. I'm trying to remember, are these balls 5 and 6 for this? I think I've gone through quite a bit of yarn for just this, which is not, and I think, I forget how much yarn I have, but I will go through my yarn, and that will be however big this is going to be, because I'm not going to buy more of this yarn for this blanket, I do not think. And what I am doing is I am alternating and going down and back with one color and then switching to the next and going back and forth there. And I am happy with how this is looking. So still, there's half of it there. So still a long ways to go on this, but it was nice to make at least a little progress for the first time in a long time. And one of the other reasons that it's been a while since I've touched this is there was that period of time when I was working on blankets for gifts, and this was quite a while ago now, but I was doing enough crocheting that I could really feel the pain in my arm and my elbow just from that repetitive motion, and it got to be a bit much. I'm like, I need to slow down on what I'm doing, because I do not wish for my hobbies to cause me pain. Okay, let's see here. Grab some more of this tea. Let's see here. So I talked about kind of wanting a new start, and ultimately deciding I wasn't ready to do that quite yet. The other thing that I have done is the Shaded Stitchery had put out a teaser for a stitch along they're going to do next year. It's their follow-up to Data Portraits in Paris, and I still have to finish the Freedom Motif Sampler because that's what I'm in the middle of. I already have the first Data Portraits in Paris pattern, which I thought was going to be the first Shaded Stitchery pattern that I worked on when ultimately I did the Freedom Motif pattern first, but I went ahead and signed up for that stitch along because I think especially now it's very reasonably priced, and since I already have the first pattern, might as well do that one as well. I'm not sure when I'm going to start the first Data Portraits one. Maybe I will try and push through and finish the Freedom Motif Sampler. We'll see. I'll have to figure out. The other thing that I need to do is I am behind on my Stitch for Pride. The July one, I haven't started that yet, and maybe in August I'll push ahead and take care of July and August for Stitch for Pride, and the same month, and then catch up on that. I have caught up before, I can catch up again. I just have to do that, and stitching just for whatever reason hadn't been kind of at the top of my list. Like I've said before, whenever I sit down to stitch, I really enjoy it, but lately my motivation to stitch hasn't always been there. Once I'm sitting and stitching, it's great, but sometimes getting myself to that point has been a little difficult. Okay, had to step away for a minute, but back now, and the sun has shifted enough that I can be back in my usual spot in the frame. So, another sip of tea. Okay, next part of this, now that I've talked about stitching, is books. And I have gone through a couple books since I last filmed. The first book that I read, actually let me check back at my notes and see if I have finished up. Yes, I think the last book I talked about was The Perfect Scent by Chandler Burr, about perfume, and I don't remember whether I was done with that book at the time that I filmed the last Flosstube, but anyway, I finished it. It was enjoyable to go through. The first book that I went through since then was a book of short stories. I don't often read short stories. I don't know that they're really kind of my favorite format of stuff, but now and then I'll go back to them and see. The one I read was The Office of Historical Corrections by Danielle Evans, and most of, it's mostly short stories, but then I guess the title story in there is I think more of a novella because it's longer, and I did enjoy it. Again, although not my favorite format, I'm glad that I read it. I think out of the stories in the book, the title story was probably my favorite, and it was sort of, well, I had just come across an article today about, tickle in my throat here. I was just reading an article today about how the changes that the current administration is making, and the article in particular was talking about some signage that had, or I should say, additions to the signage that had gone up at, was it the Muir Woods National Monument in California or something, that has been removed because it's like un-American, or I don't know. If you've been watching my videos, you know my feelings on this administration and the idiotic and horrible changes that they are making. And if you disagree with me, that is certainly fine, but my Flosstube is probably not something you're going to enjoy watching. But the title story of this book the main character works for the Office of Historical Corrections, and those folks go around, and when they see signs where the information is incorrect or not, fully correct, they will go and make additions to update the signs. And yeah, I thought that it was an enjoyable book. I'm glad I read it, although it was, probably not my favorite thing that I have read recently. What I went on to next was briefly Perfectly Human, Making an Authentic Life by Getting Real About the End by Alua Arthur. And I have known about Alua Arthur for a long time. If you haven't watched her TED Talk about how she went into, how she started her work of becoming a death doula, that's very much worth a watch. And so I had known that she had written a book. For some reason it had fallen off my radar, and then something reminded me of it, and I went and I checked on Libby, and it was available, so I checked it out and I listened to it. And when I looked at reviews that other people had posted, the fact it seemed like a lot of people were hoping that the book was more about being a death doula and her work as a death doula, and that is a part of the book, but the book is more like a memoir of her life with then some of that sprinkled in. And if you were expecting one thing and you got the other, I could see that maybe you would be disappointed, but I was perfectly happy with it. I like the book. I like Alua. And one thing that was interesting is that when I was reading through it, or it was on audiobook, so I was listening to it, and she was the one narrating, and that makes it even better. But I had known that the loss of her brother-in-law sort of played a big role in her sort of journey to be in the line of work that she is in now. What I hadn't realized was that her sister, the one who was married to that brother-in-law, is one of the more recent additions to the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And once I recognized that and realized it, and I looked at her sister like, how did I not realize that? Because you can certainly see the resemblance between them, but for whatever reason it hadn't clicked. So I just thought that was sort of funny that I didn't realize that there was the connection there. But yeah, that's a book that I enjoyed it, and I'm glad to have gone through that. The next book that I read, so these other ones I had gone through Libby to get them through my library, like I usually do. For some reason, I think I have a subscription to Spotify. I have mixed feelings about how much artists get through Spotify and whatnot, but I do have a Spotify subscription. I use my Spotify subscription a lot less these days than I did in the past, because in my previous job, my work was such that I could be listening to me. I'd have like one earbud in, and I could be listening to music all throughout the day, so I got a lot of use out of my Spotify subscription. I can't do that now, so but I still have my Spotify subscription, use it sometimes. So I had opened up Spotify for some reason, and I hadn't really looked through the audiobooks that they have there, and then I had seen an audiobook which I had recently put on my holds list at the library, and so if it's available here, I'll just listen to it and cancel my hold with the library, let somebody else read it sooner. So that book was Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner, and I know it's been out for a bit at this point. Everyone had been talking about it. I didn't know much about the details other than I had heard that it was really good. I was not familiar Michelle Zanner or her band, you know, Japanese Breakfast. Other than like hearing the name, I hadn't listened to any of the music, so kind of going into it, you know, not knowing a lot, which I think for a lot of books is probably the best way to go in, if you just kind of know the bare minimum and then just go in and experience it for what it is. And I enjoyed it quite a bit. Obviously, coming from a far different background than her, there's, you know, plenty of things that, you know, aren't going to be directly relatable to me, but that's, you know, part of the thing is that I don't get why some people are so resistant to learning about different cultures and backgrounds and different stories, because I don't want, if the only thing that I paid attention to were stories of people who were exactly like me, that would be so boring, so incredibly boring. So reading through this, there was it was great, you know, a lot of it tying into the Korean side of her through her mom and dealing with her mom's illness and passing, and you know, obviously when the start of it being about crying in H Mart, about, you know, visiting H Mart and there and seeing all the things that connected you to your mom who has now passed, and just all of that causing a wave of emotion. And, you know, obviously, am I having that same experience? No, I'm not. Haven't been, you know, cut off for part of my culture by my dad's passing or anything, but it hit me last, you know, there was something last year where an event that I didn't go to every year, but when I went to it, I often went to it with my dad, and it was just me and my dad going there. And when I read a news article, we're sort of out of the blue hearing that, you know, this thing it may be the end of it. It may not be happening again. I mean, it's been years since my dad passed, but something about that article, I was reading it, I think, on my lunch break and at work, and I almost burst into tears. And it's the things like that where something hits you, or there's some connection, and you know, suddenly you don't expect it, and it gets you. But yeah, so obviously my experience certainly not the same as hers, but plenty of relatable things in there, and I think it is worthwhile reading. And in fact, I just finished that up last night, and after that, as I was also looking through Spotify, I saw that one of the other audiobooks that they had was hang on, let me set this back up. How long is that? Okay. One of the other audiobooks that they had was Slither. And so what I started doing was I listened to it on audiobook. I was listening as I was doing some other things, and then before I went to bed, I sat down in bed listening to the audiobook and following along, just like being one of those, you know, when you're a little kid, when you hear the chime, turn the page, and following along. So I'm just about 50 pages in. Again, you know, kind of just started it last night. Not all that far into it, so we will see how it goes once we get. I'm curious to see how much I do or don't like it. There's been some interesting parts of it so far, but we will see. But yeah, that's where I am at on books. What else? I think, you know, at the end of this video, I'll put in a few pictures from the Swim Lavender Festival, and then I think I have. We'll see how they look once I get the pictures off my phone, and there I did take some pictures on the ferry ride as well, and I don't think it comes across from as well as the pictures on my phone, but coming back after being at the festival, the mountain was out, so on the ferry ride you could see Mount Rainier, and there was a bunch of different kind of cloud types up there, and it was very beautiful, but I do not think my phone photos captured it. But I took a few pictures. I didn't take really pictures of the festival itself, just to so out on the over on the Olympic Peninsula, there is a town called Sequim, which is not all that far from Port Angeles, and a ways further from that is Forks, and for all the people who love Twilight, you will know where that is. For various reasons, I am not a fan of Twilight, but that doesn't matter. Anyway, it had been quite a few years since I've been over to Sequim. I think I had stayed over, and had a family trip and stayed over at a sort of a guest house on one of the lavender farms back in 2009, and I hadn't been over there since. And when we stayed was not during the Lavender Festival. This is the first time I have been to the Lavender Festival itself, and there's a park there over booths and vendors and all that, and you will see that we'll have lots of products, made from lavender and other stuff as well, but you will find lots of people selling lavender lemonade and lavender ice cream. I don't know for sure what vendor the lavender lemonade was from, because I was up there with family, and I stepped away to use the restroom, and I came back and I was being handed a container of lavender lemonade, and I don't know which vendor it was purchased from, and it was a lavender honey lemonade, which was quite good. And then the ice cream I had was actually from the one farm that we stopped at. We stopped at Purple Haze Lavender on the way out, because we were doing this all just in a day trip and not spending the night up there at all. And so with the amount of travel, the stamina of the people I was with, it made more sense just to go to the park where the vendors were and then stop at one farm. I think there was a total of like 16 farms that are open and you can stop at, and yeah, for our itinerary we weren't going to be going to all the farms, but we stopped at Purple Haze on the way out and had lavender vanilla ice cream, and that was good. And I think I'm not a huge fan of lavender flavor in things, but now and then it's fine. And I think for an event like this, where it's sort of a special occasion, it's kind of nice. But it's not something I necessarily want in my food all the time. But I feel like if you're having something, on like once a year or something, it makes it more special. Just like the types of food that, at least with my family, that we have around, Thanksgiving or Christmas, we aren't eating those things at other times of the year. And if we were, I would get sick of them. But having them like the 2 times a year, that's fine. It's special and just for that. So I kind of feel that way about the lavender, at least lavender food items. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and yeah, first time going to the Lavender Festival itself, and I would certainly consider going back next year. So we will see. I think that's it. I don't know that there is anything else that, at least I went over everything I had in my notes. I'm sure I forgot something, but that can be saved for next month. Oh, actually there is one other thing. I think it was in my notes and I forgot, is it, we're at that time of year where a lot of people are doing mid-year whip parades. I don't know that I want to do that this year. I'm undecided. For me, I don't know that I want to haul out all my stuff and do that. Maybe I'll change my mind next month and do it next month, but I don't know. I'm not feeling a strong pull to do that, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, we will see. Part of me wants to charge ahead with Put a Bird on It and just get it done, because although I really I enjoy it, I enjoy working on it, but like I have said with so many things, that even though I signed up for the Shaded Stitchery sale next year, all of these sales, while I enjoy the ones that I participate in, putting some sort of deadline on myself to be working on it each month, I'm certainly enjoying working on both Put a Bird on It and the Stitch for Pride, but I also, the more I feel like I should be working on it, like, but I want to work on this or that, but then I feel guilty if I'm not paying attention to the one I'm supposed to be working on. So I don't know, part of me wants to forge ahead and just finish it, so then I can rid myself of any guilt of not keeping up if I don't keep up. But we'll see, because there are other whips where I'm like, oh, I'd like to work on that, or I'd like to work on this, but I don't feel like I should. And that's my own fault, because, you know, there's no cross-stitching police or the, you know, SAL police saying, you know, do your SAL, and if you don't, you're a terrible person. That's, you know, there's none of that. It doesn't matter. I don't have to keep up. I can fall behind and not finish things. I could never finish things and it would be perfectly fine. But it's just my own inner voice that is saying these things to me. So I don't know. We'll see. I think I would like to, especially with Put a Bird on It, make more headway, and just, you know, kind of, even if I'm not fully completing it well ahead of time, at least getting another big chunk of it done, and, you know, maybe doing more than I need to for August, and just carrying that momentum through and finishing it, and then just being able to, you know, finish it and set it aside and move on to other things. We'll see. So I think with that is the last thing that I had on my list to talk about, and hopefully I get this all edited in the next couple days and put up on Sunday, and I will see you next in August, whether that is for just my monthly video, or for a whip, or for both my monthly video and a whip. And a whip parade remains to be seen. So I will see you in my next video, whenever and whatever that may be. Thank you for being here, and thank you for watching. Alright, bye.